Coach Rod Ray, welcome to the ITA College Tennis Coaches Podcast.
Dave Mullins, thanks for having me. What a privilege to be with you and the coaches.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. So, Rod, you wrote a book. Hard Comes First. I've got it up here in the corner. I really enjoyed reading it, and it's funny in my, I guess, role with the ITA in recent years. I've had a lot of people send me books and look for testimonials and things like that. I'm like, why are you asking me? But anyway, I've gone through that process and never really know what I'm getting into. And I'm just so thrilled that you sent this book to me, and I've really enjoyed reading it. I've got a lot out of it. There's so many, it was fun to learn more about you, your backstory, your family life. But there's so many little pearls of wisdom sprinkled in there, and I think these are reminders that we all need to hear on a very regular basis. We read these things, we try to apply them, we forget about them, and we need to keep coming back to it. I think your book really captured that. But can you explain what hard comes first means to you?
Yeah, sure. First of all, coaching for a long time, I feel blessed. I won the lottery, and getting to coach for a long time. But it isn't always that way, and that's hard comes first. Is sometimes the best stuff in life comes after the most difficult stuff in life, and in my experience as a coach, I've seen that so many times when players go through hard times, they go through difficulty in their personal life, in their tennis playing life, and yet something good a breakthrough happens on the other side of that. Well, for me personally, I coach this great team, outstanding elite people, and yet I have a son with special needs who's also great in his own way. And getting to see how having a son with special needs, which is really difficult, especially for someone super competitive, but anybody, and yet how that has made me a better person and a better coach. So I was on the cusp of kind of thinking, I need to I need to write a book about this, because it's been a transformational experience for me. I couldn't have dreamed of how positively it impacted me. Well, it came to fruition. We had a great player on our team, who went into a cardiac arrest, at the ITA regionals at Duke a couple years ago, and he was probably the best player on our team, and he went into a cardiac arrest, and meaning he really, there was no pulse, no breath. He basically died on the court, and was resuscitated, and turned out it was a genetic pre-formality, and he that he was born with, and the doctor said, you're not going to be able to play tennis again, but I'm the best in the world in this, and I've seen this so many times. Although you're not going to be able to play tennis again, you're going to have an incredible life. And I've just seen it so many times when people go through difficult times, and yet they have a platform to come at life that's so much more remarkable than it would have been without it.
Mm.
And I was alone with the player, for 8 days in the hospital, waiting on his family to come from overseas. They had some challenges in getting to America, and I spent time kind of watching him, and sure, he went through the process of fear, and he ended up having surgery, and he comes to practice every day. Still, he no longer plays tennis, but he comes to practice every day. He'll graduate this May. And so that's kind of the story of hard comes first, is how difficult things can turn into good. And I think difficult things, whether it's like autism in my life, or an injury in a player's life, I don't think we get handed difficult things on purpose, but I think difficult things can be used for a greater purpose, if we have the right mindset. And so
Yeah.
that's how hard comes first came about.
Okay, very good. And Rod, what did I'd imagine going through this process, writing a book is a huge undertaking and very challenging in itself and difficult and hard. But what did you learn about yourself maybe going through that process? And then is there one lesson in the book that you think about most often?
Yeah. So, um, the book has been outstanding. I've gotten a lot of calls from people who have gone through hard times, and whether they're tennis players or other stuff in their family. I've gotten a lot of really interesting feedback um, from people that have reached out to me and said, "Thanks for writing that piece. It meant a lot to me." And I go back and I reread that piece, and I'm like, you know, I still need to reread to relearn that lesson again. Like I wrote the book, but I'm not really an expert on it. I'm just trying to live it. Like,
Yeah.
for example, as a child, my parents tried to teach me it's better to give than receive. Okay. And that's a pretty common lesson that parents try to teach their children, right? Well, I mean, I don't live that perfectly. I'm still learning that, right? I know that's true. It's better to give than receive, but I don't always act that way, right? I wish I did. But so even though I put in a lot of work on the book, there's so many lessons in it that I still have to keep in front of me. And I think that's true of all great books, of all great information. You don't graduate from life and say, okay, I've got it figured out. I'm perfect. You got to keep working at it, and you got to surround yourself with other great people who are trying to get better as well. And so that hit me, like being the author of a book, that really hit me. And then I think that the other thing was when I think back about the book, a day that I remember is a day that I told somebody, I'm going to write a book. And
Hmm.
I've been thinking about it, and it was kind of my own little secret. And then once I said it, and I said it again, like I told my wife, and I told some other friends, and then I was like, oh shoot, now I got to write the book. And which wasn't easy. I'm a tennis coach. I'm not an author. And so the book's not perfect. Um, and but and I think that's true in anything. Like if you want to, it's January, so people are talking about New Year's resolutions. Well, the first step is like taking the first step, right? Sometimes you got to put the key in the car. You got to get out the door. You got to do that little thing. And
Yeah.
I learned that from writing a book, that I hope will continue to help me in other things as I say, okay, this is something I'm going to do. I'm going to jump in here.
Hmm.
Okay.
And Rod, I mean, I feel like the Western world is set up to make everything as convenient as possible. And you know, my life is so much more convenient than my parents. Their life was so much more convenient than their parents, and down we go. And so are the players that you're coaching, that all our coaches are coaching, there's such a pull towards that convenience and making life as comfortable and as easy as possible. And I think a lot of parents have tried to prevent their kids from failing and maybe not doing them the greatest service there. But how do you help your athletes avoid that pull towards convenience?
Yeah, great question. I love that question. And I think you're right. So many of us are dealing with that question. And I also think that's the ongoing question that I think generations have been dealing with for hundreds and if not thousands of years, right? Each generation, the quality of life seemed to improve from technology, and we learn from the past. I think the educational piece to it is we don't want to seek convenience just for the sake of convenience. We want to seek convenience if it's best. And
Hmm.
and that takes a lot of discernment to do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Um, I think the thing that we love about tennis is that tennis is difficult.
Yeah.
It's really challenging, right? I mean, I think, if we think about how we brand tennis and how we do these things with tennis, like we have to understand that tennis is really difficult. There's a lot of easier sports out there.
Hmm.
Um, but that's the rewarding piece, right? Like I was watching one of my seniors, um, who's away at a tournament playing on live stream last night, and just thinking back to like when he was a freshman and how far he's come and how hard it's been for him. And he's a great player, and he's having success, but that hard comes first. He's a different person than he was that freshman year. And I think we have to provide examples and education to our players that this is what's going to happen to you if you take the high road. And
Mm.
there is an easier, softer way, of course. And the high road is not for most people, but it is the high road. It's
Hmm.
the rewarding part. There's easier ways, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily better. But we don't seek hard just because it's hard. That's an impossible sell, right? But we seek hard because it's beneficial. Does that make sense?
It does. I really like the way you framed that. And yeah, I guess as a coach, you're trying to help them discern that because you might have some players who are overtraining as well and making life harder than it needs to be sometimes,
For sure.
and it's probably not sustainable, right?
Right. So um, we talk about hard work and we talk about being competitive.
Mm,
And the neat thing about tennis is just because you work hard doesn't mean you're competitive,
mm, yeah,
right? But
yeah.
and just but to be competitive, you also have to work hard,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
But you got to be smart. And so there's certainly we're in the information age. We have conveniences or technology that we didn't have 20 years ago that make it we have more information, right? We wouldn't have had this kind of call 20 years ago.
no, right.
Um, and I've learned, I'm learning from podcasts and
Hmm.
um, I still read books, but I
Hmm.
learn from podcasts. So
Yeah,
we need to be discerning in
yeah.
in both of those areas. Yeah.
No, that's great. And Rod, there's a few quotes I've pulled out from the book that I've underlined a couple of times and would like you to kind of expand on them a little bit more. And you know, I'm pulling things that I think are very relevant for our coaches. But the first quote is, "Being a Hall of Fame coach is about finding joy in doing more for others than yourself." And so, if a coach is struggling to tap into this joy, how might you encourage them to reconnect with this concept?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, first of all, coaching, um, there's a lot of pressure in coaching, right?
Mm,
So if we go into business, we work for a business, our results are posted probably quarterly.
mm,
Um, profits are posted quarterly. And as coaches, our results are posted maybe daily, weekly,
mhm,
um, weekly in the spring, probably weekly, daily, twice a week. Well, if you're going to be effective, you can't just look at results. If you just look at results, like we don't want our players just looking at results. So as coaches, we can't just look at results, right? We don't. I don't. In other words, I don't want my players only looking at their ranking all the time. They're
yeah.
um, right. I want them to be more process oriented, and I think so. You know, if a coach gets too result focused, which we have to win, you know, losing coaches get fired. Um, but you can't be scared of losing. You can't look at those results constantly, that it's only about the results. You have to continually to think about the big picture process, just like you do when you run a business. A successful CEO isn't like counting the numbers every single day. They're sometimes they may take a setback. Maybe they have a 5-year plan or a 1-year plan or a 3-month plan. Same thing's true in coaches. And so I think that's where the joy is. Like as I mentioned, like that player who I was watching last night, and I'm like, well, see, I'm looking at the long-term process right there. That's where the joy is. But by the way, he lost that match. So if
Hmm.
it was only about the results, I would have been disappointed. But it's so
Right.
much bigger than just the results. And when I have that mindset, I'm actually more competitive. I'm not
Mm,
less competitive than that. But I also have more joy because I know how hard he's working, how hard he's trying. Doesn't mean he's going to win every time, but the
mhm,
joy comes from that relationship. Like I trust him, he trusts me because it's it's not a transactional relationship, right? And that's where
mhm,
the joy gets sucked out of it. If you make it about transactions, you do this for me, I'll do this for you. Quid pro quo. That's
mm,
transaction. Coaching can never be like that. If you want to coach, then you have to have the mindset that no one's going to do anything for you.
mhm,
That's not what it's about. That's not why you're in it, right?
yeah.
But see that will like so who do I work for? Well, I don't work for the ITA. I don't work for Wofford College. I mean, I need Wofford College. They provide everything, but I really work for my players,
Mm,
right? And that's where, and I'm not scared to lose. So if college coaching goes away and I can't do any college coaching anymore, that has to be okay. I'm not
mm,
scared to lose.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
every day is I'm playing like I get to play with basically like someone else's money.
Hmm.
And that's really fun,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Okay, quote number two. My job is to discover why someone isn't pursuing greatness and help them achieve it. So, how do you go about this process of discovery? And is it different for each athlete, or do you actually have a system in place?
So different for every athlete,
Hmm.
right? So let's go back to my recent history of having a son with special needs,
Hmm.
who was told he'll never do anything athletic, he'll never go to college, he'll never drive a car. Well, he ran cross country, Division I cross country in college. He drives a car. He graduated from college. Um, or how about someone who plays tennis in a wheelchair?
Hmm.
Are they great? Well, I think we can define that person as great. Every day they get up and they have a job and they go compete in a wheelchair.
Hmm.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Like that's pretty special. So that person, that now is that person, or is my son with special needs? He's not gonna he's not gonna win Wimbledon, but do you have to win Wimbledon to be great, or do you have to win? You have to be ranked top 10 in the country ITA college tennis to be great. Have to be an All-American to be great. Um, so there's different ways to define greatness. First of all,
Hmm.
now that we clear that up and everybody's clear on that, different ways to define greatness. So the next word that we're going to need to really discover is empathy. Okay. So do I have players that I feel aren't meeting their potential right now? Of course I do. But I don't know that from their perspective.
Hmm.
I'm not inside of them, right? I know that from my perspective, right? And I have years of experience and have other
Hmm.
resources and things. So I know it from my perspective, but I don't know it from their perspective, right? So for them to be pursuing greatness from their perspective, well, I'm not an expert on that.
Hmm.
They know more about that than I do. And so, but if I look at it that way all the time, like how am I going to build my relationship with this person? How can I be a better coach to them? Um, how can I connect to them? How can I inspire them? See, we know that well, I coach men, and so guys reach their peak. We reach our peak probably in our late 20s.
Hmm.
Athletically, our brain develops later than women, and so in our late 20s. So they're not going to reach their peak with me,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
I mean, if they leave me when they're 23, they're 5 years away from reaching their peak.
Hmm.
Okay. So of course they're not gonna reach their potential while they're with me,
Hmm.
right? And so that's going to have a lot of ups and downs,
Mm.
right? And so my job constantly is going to be trying to reach that person, trying to help that person. But when they struggle, that doesn't mean that it's time for me to give up. Of course they're going to struggle.
Hmm.
And I'm I'm very driven, kind of type A. So this way of thinking doesn't come easy to me. I have to work at it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's common for there are a lot of coaches that are wired like I am.
Hmm. So, Rod, in terms of that process, so you have a player maybe that has, I don't know, say low self-esteem. They don't see the just how good they could be or how great they could be. And so you've got that on the one hand, and so you're trying to build them up, trying to help them, trying to help them recognize, hey, your ceiling is actually much higher than you think.
Yep.
But then on the other hand, you might have a player who thinks they're way better than they actually are. And do you, so that player who thinks they're maybe a little bit better than they are, do you just meet them kind of where they're at and continue to encourage them? Like, how do you deal with both extremes, I guess, is the question.
And each one of those extremes has its own set of challenges, doesn't it? So
Hmm.
let's start with the player who thinks they're better than they are.
Hmm.
I mean, that's not a bad thing for a coach right away. Like it's going to have some challenges, but as we know in college tennis, that reality is going to come to them sooner than later. There's going to be some struggles with that. Just like being a perfectionist is not an easy thing. It's going to help you in some ways. It might get you up early in the morning and that kind of thing, but but it doesn't make life easier. So that person who thinks they're better than they are, we don't want to hurt their confidence. We want them to think they're going to win
Hmm.
always. But we got to be there to pick them up too. And we got to know that, when they fall, they're going to fall hard
Mm.
and they're going to fall hard. Like this isn't going to be easy for them. Their relationships with their teammates is not always going to be automatically easy for them.
Hmm.
Um, that player who is just I call it they're kind of like wired like a golden retriever, just kind of gets along with everybody, easy to coach, doesn't have an edge to them. Um, it's typically a little easier to coach than that person who always thinks they're going to win.
Hmm.
But you can't have a team just of golden retrievers. I
Yeah.
use that analogy. I personally have a German Shepherd, and she's very type A. She's very alert. She's not always the most popular dog in the neighborhood. She's a little intimidating. She always thinks she's going to win.
Hmm.
And there's some strengths to that, but there's also some weaknesses to that.
Mm.
Um, and then on the so that's the one player you talked about, and then the other one who doesn't think they're very good. I
Yeah.
mean, I think as coaches, like let's give love away, right? Right. I mean, like if you're a parent, how many times can you tell your children that you love them too many times? I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Well, how about as a coach?
Mm.
Can you tell your players that you love them and appreciate them and value them too many times? I
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think so. And does that mean that I'm going to hold them to a lower standard, or does that mean I'm going to believe in them less or more? No, it's an unconditional love. If you're on my team, I'm gonna I'm gonna love you,
Hmm.
you know, and I want you to have confidence in that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be there with you. You're gonna make mistakes. I'm not always gonna like what you do, but I'm gonna love the heck out of you.
Hmm. Yeah. What a lovely space to occupy, and
Yeah,
like you said at the beginning, it doesn't, we know we should do these things, but doing them on a daily basis can be hard,
yeah,
and so that's the point of it. But Rod, the next quote is, having an unwavering belief in others is what coaching is about. And this kind of is an extension of what we were just talking about. So if a coach finds themselves in a position where they don't truly believe in a player for whatever reason, how would you suggest the coach changes their mindset or thoughts around their impressions or how they're dealing with this player?
yeah. Great, another great question. So first of all, who's your audience? Well, my audience is basically 18 to 22-year-old guys.
Hmm.
Um, So they're what a fun job I have, right? 18 to 22-year-old guys. I mean, unbelievable. They're not always going to tell me the truth. They're not always going to do what I ask them to do.
Oh.
They're so it's never contingent upon that. Going into it, I have children about that age, and I have friends who have children about that age. And I'm like, look, your children aren't telling you the truth all the time. It's okay, right? Love them. They'll come back to you in their 30s or whatever and be honest with you, and that's been going on for thousands of years, right?
Right, right.
So and that's okay. So if you know that, like the greatest player on your team's not always going to tell you the truth, right? Because we learn, we're still learning. I'm still learning. and we're going to get better at that. But if you know that, then that, I think that certainly helps you. But yeah, that unwavering belief, like that takes work. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not just work. Like I don't just expect my players to work, but I expect me to work. So like unwavering belief. Okay, that's mental toughness. Okay, do coaches ever talk about mental toughness with their players?
All the time.
Like daily, right? Well, what about mental toughness for the coach?
Mm.
I mean, do you think just because I'm a coach, I automatically have mental toughness? Of course not. Some of my players have more mental toughness than I do. That's okay, right?
Hmm.
But I have to work at that all the time. So if I'm going to expect my player to have unwavering belief in themselves, well, I have to have unwavering belief in them,
Hmm.
especially when they don't have it,
Yeah.
especially when they're struggling, especially when they haven't told me the truth, especially when they didn't do what I hoped that they would do,
Hmm.
especially coming when they're in the middle of a losing streak.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are lessons that the special need community helped me learn.
Hmm.
Right,
Yeah. So Rod,
unwavering belief.
yeah, do you just in terms of, so relationships are hard. Communication breaks down. Personalities don't always mesh, right? You have a coach who thought the player was something maybe they weren't. The player showed a certain side during the recruiting process and then came into the program and wasn't exactly well, they saw a different side of them, let's put it that way. And so if the coach is over the course of a couple of years, I don't know, they get through their sophomore year and the coach just cannot tap into that for whatever reason, that relationship just has been soured. Do you believe you just keep trying? You keep trying with that kid for another couple of years and that's what you've signed up for, or how do you think about that?
Okay, so we're going to put the needs of the kid first.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to put the needs of the team second. That needs the kid first, needs the team second, needs of Rod Ray third.
Mm.
Okay. And often when I'm wrestling with that decision, if I don't really do my own inventory, if I really don't look hard at myself, the needs of Rod Ray trickle into number one.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so if the needs of the player first, I signed them, I recruited them. I worked really hard to get this kid to be. I was really pleased when they signed. I signed them. I recruited them.
Mm-hmm.
So if it comes to the point that you think this isn't working and it's best for the kid for them to leave, that's okay.
Mm.
You got it, but that's tricky.
Yeah.
That's tricky because I'm a competitive person. I'm a competitive coach. I want to win. Kid's not working out. Is it best for them to leave or is it best for them to stay?
Mm.
That takes some honest reflection. What if it's what if it's best for them to stay even though they're struggling? That's a big picture approach. I'm in
Mm.
the I'm in the development business, right? I'm in the winning business, but I'm also in the human development business. If it's best for them to stay, even though they're losing, then I need for them to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um,
Yep.
Now, sometimes you have a player who's a cancer on your team,
Mm.
and they're ripping the team apart. Okay. I still have to do the work of taking me out of it. I need to seek
Yep.
counsel. I need to get advice. I need to have people ask me hard questions because my tendency is to go selfish. What's best for me, right? If I can get rid of this kid and bring in a better player,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But if it's best for the team, okay, and that it's not that they just have a bad personality, but that they're just not ready to be on this team. They're going to destroy the team. They're going to hurt the other players, and they need a fresh start. That happens.
Yeah.
That happens, and that's when a coach has to make a hard decision. Here again, the challenging part. for coaches is to take the coach out of it.
Yeah.
That's the real, if I'm really honest, that's the hard piece for me is I got to
Hmm.
remove myself from it, and I may take a hit to keep this kid on the team, and I gotta be able to do that. I'm the
Mm.
adult. I got to be a leader that way. And that's we wrestle with that as coaches.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really helpful though, Rod, to put it in that way because yeah, all our tendencies is to think of ourselves first. And like I said, we're under pressure to win and get the job done. And but okay, next quote. People are generally averse to change, so changing ourselves is incredibly difficult unless we are forced to do it. This is why difficulty is so good for us. We typically resist change unless we're completely out of viable options. So, Rod, you've been coaching 25 years now. You've seen so much change happen to college athletics, not just college tennis, but college athletics in general. We're at this very strange time in college athletics with lots of things swirling around, lots of uncertainty. So, most of us, maybe some coaches really like this. Most of us don't really like these changes that are coming and don't necessarily think it's in the best interest of college athletics in general. But here we are. So, how do you encourage coaches to embrace change? I mean, they're kind of going to be forced to, right? This is what, but how do they, even if they're not forced to, how do you encourage them to accept it and maybe even get ahead of the curve because some coaches are going to fight it till the bitter end and this is a chance for a coach maybe to get an edge on the competition.
So the only thing constant is change,
Mhm.
for sure, right? I mean, we're seeing a lot of changes right now. No, number one is as I said in the beginning of our conversation, I feel like I hit the lottery. I get to coach.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm not the one making the changes. If I want to make the change, if I want to be the change person, then I'm in the wrong business. I need to go to law school and become an attorney and be on the change committee. You're more on the change committee than I am.
Mhm.
Um, in the work, but because I'm not on the change committee, I get to coach. So I'm not going to worry about the changes. First
Mhm.
of all, now they're coming, whether I worry about them or not. I need to accept that. And can I get ahead of the curve if I accept it? Yeah, of course I can. And that's part of my responsibility to my players and my school and to tennis and others is to be thoughtful in that way, but not to worry about the change because I have no control over the changes. I have
Mhm.
I have I have but I so my here again, my first responsibility is to coach my current team.
Yep.
Like I get to coach. That's so cool. Like I get to be a coach. Are you kidding me? I should be paying them. They're paying me to do this. It's so cool, right? If I don't like it, then I need to go be a policy person or something. So, and if you once you get to that point that you accept that, like I'm not second guessing my athletic director. If I
Yep.
am, then I need to become an athletic director. I get to coach, right? So yeah, we've got all these changes coming. Of course we do. And they're going to keep coming. It's not, we don't even, we know that sports are going to be different in 3 or 4 years.
Right.
We don't know what that is,
Mhm.
right? Um, but I get to coach. Um, and people need coaching more than ever. Young people, there's so much noise out there. Like my job is not to get distracted with the outside noise.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, not to get distracted with it. Does that mean that I'm in a vacuum all by myself? No, I need to know, I need to be thinking, but not be consumed with the things that I can't control.
Mhm.
My job is the 10 guys who are going to be in that locker room in 2 hours,
Yeah.
right? How can I help them?
Yeah.
And they want to have a great college tennis experience. They're not focusing, they're not thinking about these changes.
No.
They still want to play tennis. Okay. So their whole, it's interesting. Years ago, somebody told me, never take a job for the money.
Mhm.
Great advice. I didn't know it at the time, right? Great advice. Never take a job for the money. Why do you take a job? For all these other things that you like about the job. Um, well, right now there's so much money coming at sports, right, in different ways. but it's still sport. Let's don't lose focus on the sport when there's still so much valuable about being on a team and how important that is.
Mm.
Um, Things like transfer portal. Yeah, people are coming and going. Rod Ray's not in charge of that. I don't have
Yeah.
anything to do with that. I mean, but I get to coach.
Hmm.
Somebody wants to leave, they can leave.
Yeah.
That mindset is different than it would have been 10 years ago. 10 years
Mm.
ago, somebody wanted to leave. I took it personally. Why do you want to
Mm.
leave, man? You can't leave. I brought you here. We're going to do great things together. That's not the landscape of today, right? And so, or if they want to leave because they're going to get NIL money, you're going to leave here because you're going to get X number of dollars. You're going to give this up. Well, I'm not in charge of that. They can do that. That's fine. But they still need coaching, right? And so my job is to stay focused and not worry about that outside noise, but to know about it and help me get the best cards in my deck that I can to play.
Hmm. Yeah. I love that perspective, and very good for everybody to hear that in any industry, not just our industry. Where just change is at this rapid pace. Other industries are dealing with this uncertainty on a daily basis. I used to work in
Right.
finance. The ups and
Yes.
downs on a daily basis were,
How about
were
healthcare? Are there changes in healthcare?
oh my
I mean,
God.
are there
Yeah.
changes? I mean, AI is changing everything. How about if you're in supply chain? I mean, if anyone thinks that tennis is the only one that changing or is going to change,
Yeah.
they're being very self-centered. That's not true.
Hmm.
Everybody's facing change. Like, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the world we're in. So one of my favorite quotes, Rod, and I've heard different versions of this, but as soon as I read it, I got out of my bed. I went into my son, who was a college soccer player, and I said, "You got to hear this quote." And it's, "Work as if you have no talent, play as if you're the most talented person in the world." So how do you go about instilling that mindset into your players? Because I just love that.
Yeah. Well, I think players, first of all, I think players are visual learners, and I think if you want to, players will watch the coach. If you want to have an impact in that kind of mindset, you need to have that kind of mindset yourself,
Hmm.
right? Make the big time where you are. I coach at one of the smallest Division I schools in the country with
Mm.
scholarship football. So my mindset's always been like, let's make the big time where you are, right? And
Yeah.
that kind of goes along with that same thing. Like, um, it's the same mindset. I mean, it's the same mindset, right? And remember, for a college player, they're not going to reach their peak until they're 27, 28. They're going to be out of tennis more than likely by that time. So
Hmm.
we don't know. We don't know how good you can be. I don't know how good you can be.
Yeah.
Um, is it based on what are we basing it on? How good you when you were 17? That you kind of got a jump start, you matured early, and so we're going
Hmm.
to base it on how good you are when you were 17. I have a former player, right, who's 34 in the world ATP doubles right now.
Hmm.
He played 5 junior tournaments from the time he was 14 to 18.
Yeah.
So like what in the world? Like so, but he saw himself as a winner,
Mm.
right? He saw himself like let's work super hard, let's go after it.
Hmm.
Um, and that's been educational to me to see that process. But work, like because you have ability, does that guarantee you something? I mean, there's always going to be somebody with more ability, right? I mean,
Yeah.
always, right? It's because if you have a lot of ability, you're going to be the target, and other people are going to pass you.
Hmm.
Um, but if you do work like you have no talent, and then when you go to play, we want our players to play free.
Hmm.
If like I said, I have the greatest job in the world. I hit the lottery. Well, I'm having fun. Well, it gives me such an advantage, right? It
Yeah.
gives me such an advantage. I'm more creative. I'm more energetic. Um, and that's how I am. That's how I feel. I'm not just saying that. That's how I feel. So if I feel that way, then it's in our environment and it helps our players, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's one I'm going to use many times. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing that
And
nugget.
so you give that message to your son
Hmm.
and you like it, it resonates with you, but it doesn't mean it's going to resonate with him.
No, no.
That's what we keep saying and that's okay.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's totally okay.
Yeah, yeah. We'll just keep sharing stuff,
Yeah,
right? And
right.
something might stick.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, Rod, is there anything you did not include in the book now that it's out in the world that you wish you had, or is there any lesson you've learned since then that if you wrote another book would go in there?
Yeah. Right. The hard thing about writing a book is you write the book and it's out there, right? You're like, gosh, if I could redo that, yeah, I'd redo that. Of course I would. Um, I think that so hard comes first is um I've been transparent in writing the book. It's there's a lot of the book that's very personal,
Hmm.
good and bad. It's kind I've said if I'm going to be helpful, I need to be transparent. I need to kind of put myself out there. And hopefully some people can learn from my struggles and also learn from my successes, but not to be too vain that it's not okay for people to learn from my struggles. So I did that with the book. If I had it to do over again, I would I wouldn't make it just my experiences. I did a lot of research to write the book, but I would probably co-authored the book with other people and gotten more. I'm just a tennis coach. I would have gotten some more experts involved in the book. That's probably what I would do. I would get some. I would invite other people to write it with me. And I don't know, maybe I didn't think anybody would take me up on that. So I ended up doing it solo. But I think that's the thing. I would, if I had to do it over again, I'd get more expert advice.
Okay.
And yet at the same time, I think the beauty of it is that it's just coming from a tennis coach.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So anyway, we'll get back to that at the end. I want to figure out where coaches can go get it. But how would you we talked about change, we talked about getting players out of their comfort zones, but how would you encourage coaches to get out of their comfort zones, especially, like I said, you've been in this 25 years. It would be easy for you to come to work. "Oh, I've seen it all. I've done it all. I don't need to be creative. I'll take the practice I did this time last year and do it again." And so how, I mean, maybe rather than giving advice to coaches, how have you forced yourself out of your comfort zone as it relates to being a better college coach on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis?
Yeah. Um, I think one of the things that's challenged about being a college coach is it's so competitive that we tend to operate in a vacuum.
Hmm.
And to allow yourself to have friends, if you want everybody to do well, you want everybody to win. We don't operate in a vacuum.
Hmm.
And I think that helps to keep the fire burning, keeps it fun. Like don't get so caught up in just your own in wins and losses. But I want college tennis to win. I want my players. I want everybody to win, and
Yep.
that's why I'm having fun. So I think that mindset's really important in the longevity of being a college coach. Don't make it just about you.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Well, Rod, we're going to jump into some rapid fire questions. What is the best piece of advice you received as it relates to college coaching?
Hmm. Um, Yeah, this comes from the airline industry, where the flight attendant comes out and we're getting ready to take off and says, if you have a child, I want you to put your own gas mask on
Mm.
before you put the gas mask on the child next to you, and that relates so well to college coaching because you have to take care of yourself. Like if
Hmm.
you're going to be a good coach, take care of yourself so that you can be recharged and have new information and be open and growth minded and have energy and to bring every day. Know that it is a very challenging profession, but you have to take care of yourself. Otherwise, you'll end up running yourself
Yep,
raw. Yeah, you can't do it.
for sure. What piece of advice do you relay most consistently to the next generation of coaches who ask you for advice?
Yeah, stay in the present.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're doing right now, with the changes and everything. But stay right in the present. Don't worry. Stay in the present so you don't miss the good stuff.
Hmm. Is there a favorite drill you like to do with your team?
Yeah. So many. So this fall, what we really liked and it worked well was very simple one-on-one drill. One side hits three slices in a row. The other side comes over the ball three times in a row. The side that's coming over the ball is trying to hit triple the spin, and it really helped us to work before we could get into an attacking ball, a ball that
Mm.
sits up that we could then hit through, but to be hit that triple spin before getting an opportunity to drive. And I think it's a really good drill for today's game. Obviously, anything with serve, players don't always just enjoy doing serve, but we've got to work on the serve, so important. But that three slice, three coming over, super important. And our players really it helped us this fall.
Okay. What book has had the greatest impact on you as a coach?
I'm an avid reader. One that comes to mind that I read recently is called Every Good Endeavor by a writer named Timothy Keller, and it really helps you to. It's been good for me as I look at coaching as a vocation and not just an occupation, but really like coaching as a calling and to have a bigger purpose in coaching. Every Good Endeavor by Tim Keller.
Okay. What is one rule change that you believe would help college tennis be more appealing to a wider audience?
Yeah. Well, one thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see both teams come together before a match, put the names in a hat, and have a random drawing to see who plays who. I
Mm,
think that would make it super fun and exciting for the players.
mm,
Okay? I don't know if the fans care about that, but I think it would create some curiosity and excitement for the players. And I think it would, since it would create more excitement for the players, then it creates a better product.
mm. Yeah.
There's some randomness to that. We like to, although we're not, as coaches, we're not allowed to bet.
Hmm.
In the betting, we bet on players all the time, right? But
Sure.
we can't bet. That's against the rules for us to be betting. But that randomness that I'm talking about does make it more exciting,
Yeah.
because it kind of changes the odds a little bit. So you
Yeah.
never know, and I think that makes it more fun.
It does. You'd have a lot more, I guess, upsets
Have more upsets. Yeah,
and you don't pigeonhole players into thinking they're a
right.
five player, a six player, or one player. It's like, yeah.
Correct. How many times do people say the depth in college tennis has
Mm,
never been deeper, right? Well,
yeah.
this this does that, right?
Yeah. I
Super
like it.
fun. Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, what advice do you have for me as I get started in my new role as ITA CEO and president?
Yeah, you got a great job and you're doing a great job. Lead, and that's in your wheelhouse. So you're a visionary, lead, seek wise counsel, but don't be afraid to make the hard decisions because you got hard decisions coming. So
Yeah,
make
yeah.
those hard decisions. Okay, that's what we're counting
Thank
on
you.
you to do.
Thank you. No, it's great. Well, Rod, again, I really thoroughly enjoyed the book. Congratulations on what you've done. What a great achievement and something for your kids and grandkids and great grandkids and everybody else. It's just awesome. So where can coaches, if they're interested in picking up a copy, where just Amazon, where's the
Yeah,
best place to go get
yeah.
it?
Amazon is the best place. Yep, easy to find on Amazon. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks. Yeah,
Well, yeah, what a gift to the world. So congrats. But this has been a lot of fun, Rod. Thank you and best of luck this season.
my pleasure. Thanks a lot.